Judge Roy Moore forcibly fighting back tonight against allegations that he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl decades ago, calling the accusations completely false and misleading. Joining me now, A.R. Bernard, who's the founder and pastor of the Christian Culture Center. He's a former member of the board of Evangelical Advisors to President Trump. Thank you. It's been a long week and a tough Friday night.
To say the least.
If you have been watching the show, thank you so much. This is an important conversation. I'm so glad to have you on. So this controversy has brought comparisons to Jesus Christ. I want to read, this is what Alabama State Auditor Jim Ziegler says. If true, the Roy Moore situation would be ultimately okay. He says, take Joseph and Mary. Mary was a teenager, and Joseph was an adult carpenter. They became parents of Jesus. There's just nothing immoral or illegal here, maybe just a little bit unusual. And then his brother, Moore's brother, Jerry told CNN's Martin Savage that his brother is being persecuted like Jesus Christ. As a person of faith, does that make you, how do you feel about it? Does it make you uncomfortable?
I feel very disturbed by it, because anytime we continue the American narrative, which is to misuse Scripture to justify acts of oppression or sin or violence, I mean, that's the American story. And I think it's preposterous to present ourselves on par with Jesus. All right, if we're going to make scriptural comparisons, I would say a lot of our leadership from the top on down is more of a Saul, who was a concession by God, placed in a position of power to expose the spiritual and moral condition of a nation.
One of the people CNN talked to about the Moore allegations said even if he did it, even if it proves to be true, I still would support it. Says, I still would support Roy Moore because I feel as if it happened in the past. So, listen, forgiveness is certainly part of faith, right? But what about accountability?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we do live in a tension between the reality of our fallen human nature and the ideal moral standard presented to us by God. However, all Christians believe in the Scripture that says grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Not just grace, but grace and truth. Grace deals with the guilt. Grace issues forgiveness. But truth confronts us for our actions and holds us accountable.
The evangelical support for the president, as you know, has been fairly consistent, right, and fairly high, although there's a recent Fox News poll out, and it shows here, Pastor, that his approval has fallen some 8 points down to 66%. You know, he routinely belittles and threatens people. He has a tenuous relationship with the truth. Why do you think Christians continue to support him?
Well, first of all, the evangelical community is not monolithic. There are varying opinions about the White House, about the president, about what's going on in our nation. So everyone doesn't agree with him and what he's doing. But they do think redemptively. They do believe that they should have a prophetic as well as a moral presence in society. Unfortunately, when that moral voice becomes challenged and loses its credibility, then they've got a problem, because our greatest strength is our moral influence on society.
Moore sent out a fundraising email after the Washington Post story broke. Let me read it. It says, the forces, where is it? It says, the forces of evil will lie, cheat, steal, even inflict physical harm if they believe it will silence and shut up Christian conservatives like you and me. Do you find that to be true?
No. That is political Christianese. That is the language that is common within certain circles. You know, let's zoom out, John, and take an aerial view of what's going on in our country, because what we're seeing playing out before us is symptomatic of a bigger reality. You know, history is not written by the victims, it's written by the victors, it's written by those in power. And during the process of time, when those who were victims emerge to positions of power, they begin to reevaluate that history. They reevaluate the American narrative. Just like persons of color are reevaluating the American narrative, women in the last 50 years have experienced unprecedented wealth and education and upward mobility. And they're now reevaluating the things that they used to put up with. And they're saying no more. So they're coming together. And I think all of this emboldens them to begin to change the future of the American narrative.
One more question to you. I found it fascinating that there also, this was one county Republican chairman, and I've heard others say that they would vote for him anyway, even if it's true, because they would rather him than a Democrat.
Yeah, and I believe that. I believe they are willing to do that. I think when it comes to their priorities, It's about pushing back against what they perceive as the enemy.
But this is what I'm from the Bible Belt, or from Louisiana, very religious, deep South Louisiana. You know, church on Sundays, sometimes twice. But I don't understand, how do you reconcile that?
Come on, Don. Slavery was justified. That's why we have Southern Baptists and Northern this and Southern that, because the country was divided and preachers were preaching from their pulpit for and against slavery. So we can take the scripture and we can twist it to justify. But if we take a holistic look, it doesn't hold up.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
My
A.R.
pleasure.
Bernard, I really appreciate it. See you next time. Hopefully it's under better circumstances than this time.